Good afternoon. This mic work? Hello, hello.
You gotta use that, yeah.
Okay. I'm Randy Conley. Work for CSX. Now you guys got Norfolk Southern tracks and CSX tracks. So we both, Norfolk Southern guys, we all work together on this. It's a team effort to make sure you guys understand and, the ideas of crossing tracks safely, watts and knots to do. So it's kind of a generic form. I might mention a few things that maybe like, well, our trainer or instructors didn't exactly tell us that way. But if you got any questions, raise your hand. Always here to take questions on that part. We don't get into the rules part of it, just kind of the basic procedures of crossing tracks. If you've got any questions, it's what we're here for on that part. Like I said, you guys got, how many new drivers do we have? Few? Okay. How many actually crosses tracks on your daily run? Several of you, okay. That's good. Get a sign out. But I actually work on the track, on the rail, from Cincinnati back down toward Russell, down toward Ashland, that part. Worked in management, I've been out here for 23 years. Worked in management for about 12 years from Jacksonville back into Tennessee and Kentucky side up here. So I've kind of been on the tracks for at least 23 and a half years out of it. But we'll start this. This is, like I said, it's kind of set up for you guys. You're the bus drivers this time of year. We do it for about anybody. Truck driver schools. I did UPS 2 weeks ago. 35 school districts this year I've done, or will be completed by next week. So everything from southern part of Kentucky down Harlan County to Pike County to you guys all the way up here toward the Covington side of it. It's kind of my area, the responsibility on that part. Like I said, we do this. We got state police. I have them guys set up next week. First responders. Who we got? Fire departments. Any fire personnel? Few. We have a first responders class of what to do and what not to do in case of a derailment on that part. Driver's ed, we kind of fit the appropriate class, but you guys, the bus drivers this time of year, how many of you guys live beside the main line tracks? Anybody live beside the railroad? I've lived beside it all my life. Used to, years ago, my grandfather used to always say he used to get up on the 6 o'clock train. That was his scheduled time to get up, go feed the cattle. We had a small farm. So he'd get up, go feed the cattle. If the train was late, he was a little late sometimes. Plus he worked for the gas company on that part. So he was a little late sometimes if the train was a little delayed. But now through the sophistication of computers or satellites we have in there, we can run trains any time of day. 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I worked last Christmas Eve trying to get back home to my family. So it's all times of the day, all times of night, either direction. So you always, if you're around the tracks, if you're around the main line or any railroad track, always expect a train. That's what our locomotive looks like. That's what my seat will look like. If I'm sitting in the driver's seat or the engineer's seat, that's my view. And sometimes it don't look very pretty. Especially when people pulls vehicles in front of you, or runs in front of you, stands in front of you trying to take pictures. It's not a nice sight. Believe it or not. Wedding parties, I go around during prom time, talking to photographers. Do not do camera shots at tunnels or bridges or trestles on that part. Most social media networks take those pictures down now, those videos on that part that are posted. But it's not the thing to do. I drove here, everybody drove today. We had a steering wheel. I started out this morning in Fleming County, dodged a deer. It's not far from Flemingsburg. But we don't have a steering wheel. We've got a throttle and a couple of brake handles, all we've got. And what we do, we follow those 2 rails. That's all we follow. And our dispatcher pretty much tells us which rail to run on. So we don't have the choice of saying, all right, at the last minute, I'm going to jump rails. I see a car on the second rail over, I'm going to jump the track. We don't have that luxury. We don't have that luxury of stopping real fast either. Mainly our stopping distance is of a car, around 230, 220 feet. You got a school bus is probably a little better now, 230. Tractor trailer, about 300 plus. That's Amtrak. Now Amtrak does run through your guys' county through here on the northern part of it. About 600 feet. But a loaded freight train with coal maybe, rock, running 55 now. A lot of trains we don't run exactly 55 miles per hour. But say we was running 55, you're looking at 5,280 feet. What's that equivalent to? 1 mile, 18 football fields. So we've got a lot of room, distance to stop a train at 55. Say you're even doing 40 miles per hour. Reduce that down to 3/4 of a mile or less. Still yet, we can't see 3/4 of a mile most of the time around the tracks. If you're stuck on a track or if you're sitting on the track or walking or riding a four-wheeler or riding a horse, there's all kinds of incidences that we hit horses or four-wheelers or cars. So it's not the place to be out here. So if you go back to that previous, well, wrong way. There we go. The previous, that one there, there's not a lot we can do except maybe blow the horn. Excessive, hoping to get, if there are somebody in the vehicle, to get out. We might be able to stop if we had light engines, only maybe just one engine or something, or up on that, we might be able to stop before we got to him. It's not the thing to do. Weight ratios, everybody stepped on a pop can, soda pop. They're getting lighter now. Okay, it's about crushing your hand while you're drinking the product out of them. But if you figure the weight ratio of a car running over a soda pop can and a locomotive hitting a car, it's about the same, with the same devastating effects. I'll speak a little bit more on that, the slide on the right in a few moments. Crossings, we'll talk on this a little bit. A lot of you guys every day go across a railroad crossing on your normal run. Say I'm that car right there. I broke down, ran out of gas. Doggone, I only had 50 cents to put gas in my car and I ran out on the tracks. Now I get out of the car and I see, oh no, here's a train coming. So the first thing you want to do, evacuate your vehicle, evacuate your bus. And if you go across a normal crossing on your normal runs, have that mock evacuation plan back in your head. Where are my students going to go? How am I going to get them out safely? Where's the primary meeting point? Have that in the back of your mind on these everyday runs that you have, just in case the drive line fell out of the school bus, mechanical failure on that part. Kind of have that little mock evacuation plan set. Say you did have a failure like I did, I ran out of gas. I get everybody out. Which way do I want to evacuate with my family or kids? I want to go in the direction of the purple arrows toward the train in a way. The train's coming in the direction of the red arrow. Now why is that? What's all that debris going to do when the train hits it? It's going to go forward to the side. So if you go in the direction toward the train, away from the tracks, pretty much you'll be safe from the debris part. Say you're stuck on the tracks, no train around, this maybe a rural crossing you're stuck on. Maybe you live on this railroad crossing, it's rough. Railroads come through and tore it all up and they haven't fixed it back. We're good for that sometimes. Slow, repairing kind of private crossings and residential crossings. But say my crossing's rough, where I'm stuck on it. I got stuck on one years ago on my farm with a tractor. Here's a sign here, and believe it or not, the railroad finally did something right with this sign. We used to have 20 different colors of signs. CSX was primarily blue and white, but Norfolk Southern had a white and black, and Union Pacific was canary yellow, and Burlington Northern was orange. The railroad got together with the FRA and a lot of them, the Federal Road Administration and the NTSB said, hey, we need a standard sign color. So I always said, I said, I'm glad they chose Kentucky Blue out of it. Close to it. But no matter now, they started this last year, so no matter what state, California, Maryland, Maine, you can see a blue sign. It might be a little larger, could be a little smaller, might even be paperish looking as a stick-on, but it'll be bluish on that part. Now, what do you do if you're stuck on a track on a CSX line? The phone number around here. Say you have part of the county here where we run CSX and Norfolk Southern side by side. You'll have two signs. You say, which one do I call? Don't matter when you're running dual lines. Both railroads will talk to each other on that part when you let them know where you're at. Part. But say you're in western part of Kentucky and you're stuck on the tracks and you say, hey, where am I at? First thing you're going to do is dial 911 if you're in your buses or anything like that. But dial that 1-800 number they have. All railroads will be unique in their phone numbers that they'll have. Once you dial that number, someone will pick it up. Don't tell them, don't sit there and wait on the menu when he asks you. Tell him you're stuck on the tracks. That way you're not being played elevator music for 4 or 5 minutes while someone picks up. When you tell them you're stuck on the tracks, that escalates that call to the top. Someone will be there. And they'll ask you to say, where's your location? What's your crossing number? And you'll say, well, what's a crossing number? And they'll say, well, it'll say on the sign. The sign at the bottom of it, usually all railroads in North America will start with an alphabet, ABC, and end with a numerical number, 1, 2, 3. So you're looking for a number like that, ABC, 1, 2, 3. Like our main line over here all starts with C's, like a CA. Then we do have some OKCs, sorry about that. But most of them are C's and O's in this county. So that's one purpose for this sign. And the sign's located, usually at a crossbuck is the most popular place. The center sign with the crossbuck and the sign on it. Could be over where the signals are. But mostly they're not at a signal house, but they could be. But say now you're on a farm crossing and you're exempt from train horn blowing. No crossbucks or anything there. It could be just a normal fence post or a post with the mark with the sign on it. So that's basically the 3 to 4 places where they're located at. Passive crossings, don't have no gates, no bells, no lights, no whistles. Just a good old-fashioned crossing. You see this a lot in the rural areas. If you're on your rural outing somewhere, you're not real familiar with the railroad or the highway, where railroad crossings are, this is the first thing you want to look for. You see that sign to the right, which is your advance warning sign? Your pavement markings sometimes get wore. I had to skip up with the state highway department. Sometimes they don't really refresh those in a timely manner, so they might be worn out a little bit. But if you see those on your outings, you're coming back through on a foggy, rainy night, you can look ahead and say, hey, there's a railroad coming up somewhere. It might be gated, it might have bells, it might have whistles, lights, or it could be just an old-fashioned crossbuck ahead. That marks where the railroad is at, the location. Generally, there's a stop line right directly across from the crossbuck ahead. That's the safest minimum point where you can pull your school bus up, do your normal stop, let your windows down, doors open, and visually make sure there's no train coming. And that's basically your passive crossing. No train horn, we've got out here at Latonia, a place like that. We have like 1 toot rule, unless there's somebody coming across the crossing or somebody walking. But it's just like a 1 toot. City ordinances, residential area, that's what we use in a lot of places. They've asked for that. Cut down noise pollution. That's your closest place. We have a couple in Louisville and one in Owensboro next to a hospital that I'm aware of. I'm sure there's some more, but if you see that sign, you say, hey, that train didn't blow the horn. It's crossing. But we'll look for that sign and say if it says no train horn, that's the reason why, that part. Active warning devices, the one on the left and right are the most popular ones. You find a lot of overhead warning devices in cities where the space is compact, limited on the right side where we can actually put maybe the cross bucks, put the signal post. You might have them overhead. If you see one overhead, be a little bit more observant for it. There's maybe off into sunlight, not really good vision on those lights, so always keep an eye, a little bit better eyesight on the one that's overhead. That's your basic 3. Note the one that says 2 tracks over on the left side. It could say 3 tracks, 4 tracks, 5 tracks. Going around crossing gates. We have an officer riding a train tomorrow from Cincinnati. He's a state trooper. From Cincinnati to Russell, I think. And that's what he's looking for. See people go around gates and go around lights, walking along the track. That's what we use them for. That's what we ask for them to do, to ride with us sometimes. They love it. They want to all the time. But you go around gates, that means the road's closed. Temporary while trains pass. Don't want to endanger your passenger. Don't want to endanger your, maybe people standing on the side of the street waiting for the train to pass safely. So you don't want to veer around the gates, endanger anybody's lives. Say you do get stuck on the tracks. You're right here, well, one of your crossings, I'll not make one up, but no train around. No train anywhere in sight. What's your first thing you're going to do? Call your dispatcher, call on 911. Now, can somebody verbally give you permission to go across them gates, across those tracks? No. Can somebody standing in a car wave you across? No. Has to be somebody at that point. Has to be an officer, not a uniformed officer, but an officer. Could be an off-duty officer. Could be someone that's a plainclothes officer. But they have to be on the ground, not sitting in the car or in their office, saying, oh, there's no train in sight. Somebody could be sitting in an office and they say, oh, there's no train in sight, but they didn't know you was maybe called Norfolk Southern and they called CSX, or vice versa. Same crossing, but make sure they're on the ground. Or a railroad personnel can get you across. Now, railroad personnel can do it in 2 different manners. If the conductor is actually on the head end, he can come out here and wave you on, or come out the front door. But make sure the train is stopped, sitting still, not moving. Say the conductor will be back in the walking the train, the engineer is not allowed to get off the train and on the ground, so he might have to walk out the front door, kind of wave you by. But make sure it's stopped, make sure that the hand signals and that he's stopped and it's motion to go across. If there's only 2 people out there can give you permission to go across. Use the sign, use that sign if you are stuck somewhere. That's another reason to use your sign. Say, hey, I'm at so-and-so exit crossing number, the gates are down, and I don't see a train. And the way our gates and sliding system were fixed up, if there's a fail detected in that system, whether it be in the rail, electronic portion of it, the lights flash and the gates go down, just for the safety portion of it. They'd rather see the lights flashing all the time and the gates down than not to be working at all. Speed perception. Everybody's been at the airport, see a plane off in the distance, say, wow, is that plane landing? Is it hanging in the air? What's it going to do? Finally, it comes in for the approach, lands, lets its passengers off. Trains will give you the same visual perception. If you can see far enough down the track. Our trains run anywhere from 10 mile an hour to 70 mile an hour on freight, 110 on Amtrak. So if you look down the track, you say, wow, is that train moving? If you see far enough, it could really cover a lot of distance at 60 or 70 mile an hour. So always make sure the train's sitting still. If you see one off of the distance, we'll wait for it to approach, come on across. All of our buses are automatic now, that's a good thing. Don't want to shift on your regular vehicle or don't want to pass. How about the little black Jeep there? Is he in a good place? Nope. He can't go forward, he can't go backward. How about the school bus? What do you think about it? Yeah, a little iffy. Here's the reason why. 3-foot overhang, that's the locomotive. That's not our wide shipment that we may have. We might have pulpwood logs that may be queued just a little bit out of proportion. Strapping that's loose, this banding. So if you look back, the bus would really be close. So always make sure we got a lot of road construction around this time of year. If you have road construction around railroad crossings, make sure that flagman don't stop you real quick and you got half your bus hanging over the side. We hit a horse trailer 2 weeks ago. The guy forgot he had a horse trailer, was pulling it. No horses in it, thank goodness on that part. But he pulled out, went across the tracks, at a red light, and at the last moment, he looked back and seen why the train was actually excessively blowing his horn when his trailer went that way. So he lost his horse trailer. Lucky it didn't pull him into the train too. But always remember what you're pulling, you know. You guys go from, some of you guys might switch from a 20-foot bus to, what's the largest bus that you guys have? 40? 48 footers? That's a double bus. You know, you get from a 20-footer, the mini buses, to a 48-footer, that's like 2 buses together. So always remember what size bus you have. Remember your containment. If you got it in road construction, make sure you got storage capacity back there. Your rear end of your bus is not hanging over the tracks. Always keep that in the back of your mind. 2 tracks, remember I said 2 tracks, 3 tracks, 4 tracks? Say you're on your outing somewhere, vacation. On your bikes, sweat running down your back, hot, 90-degree day, and you see that rear of that train coming by, that auto rack train that's off to the distance. We have auto racks running by here. You guys probably see them. Big tall cars, you can't really see over them. And you say, hey, I see the rear of that car, rear car going by, I'm going. And you go before the gates go up. Maybe you leave before the lights quit flashing. What you don't see is you're going across 2 or 3 tracks, maybe an oncoming train in the opposite direction. So always make sure all tracks are clear, whether it be 2 tracks, 3 tracks, 4 tracks, ever how many you may have before you go on across them. Overdriving or headlights. Remember, use those advanced warning signs that we have posted on the side of the track or on the side of the roads on your rural outings. Pavement markers. That's the reason we put those on there. We don't have a lot of reflective material in our cars, or old coal cars especially. You might come up on a crossing, pavement, or a passive crossing without any lights. Might be a train sitting there. Could be a coal train. Those old black cars, they don't have a lot of reflective material on them. So always be observant on that. Don't be overdriving your headlights. Distractions, cell phones. You guys can't talk on the phone when you're on your bus. We can't use the phone either. We have up to 6 cameras on our locomotives now. We have cameras behind us, cameras in front of us, cameras outside of us, cameras in the rear of the engine. We can't use phones except when we're sitting still. We can be fired permanently for using a phone. And it's not the railroad fires us, it's the federal government fires us. They're over us, they're part of their phone regulations on this part. So we're regulated by it too. We can't, there's a lot of distractions. Cell phone texting, I'm on to my boys, I have 3 boys. And somewhere in the conversation when I talk to them today, there's something about texting and driving. They know it's coming. So they just go ahead and use it, go ahead and tell me on that part. We cut the distractions down, get up a little early, don't be putting lipstick on, shaving. Get up 15, 20 minutes early. It's tough, I know, on that part. Always open your eyes up, open your ears. Get those earbuds out. That's what I tell my kids all the time. Wear them earbuds all the time, seem like. You can't hear it. You're sitting there talking to them, they don't even look at you. So if you're driving, get those earbuds out in front of these tracks. So you hear the train coming. A lot of sign says no trespassing. A lot of people don't realize that railroad property is private property. It's not government property, not state property. It's private property. It's like your guy's backyard. If I go to the store, grocery store, come back, I don't want half my neighborhood playing in my swimming pool or playing on the kids' swing set or basketball court. You're kind of responsible for that. So railroad don't want people out playing on the tracks. Plus we got all this neat stuff to play on. We got big rocks, big pieces of wood, and steel. And when you fall on it, it hurts. So we don't want you out there. It can be trespassing. You can be cited for trespassing. Don't want to get down listening at the track, see if a train's coming. Don't want to be riding four-wheelers. Seems like we always hit a four-wheeler at least through the summer months, spring months, fall. We hit one, the last one I know of. If anybody ever been down to the Breaks Interstate Park, and Pike County goes into Virginia that way. A gentleman was riding side by side, taking a shortcut. He decided to stop just for a minute in between, in the middle of a tunnel. It had a curve in it. The tunnel he's talking about, State Line Tunnel, which there's actually a hole in the middle of it that goes out of it, where they took debris out years ago. But he stopped in the middle of it. Well, all of a sudden when he stopped, he heard a train, but he didn't know which way it was coming. By the time he figured it out, it was too late. Basically, all he had to do was jump down into the ditch in the tunnel, and then his side-by-side kind of went with the train. So it's not the place to be going, not the place to be walking. If you are out here walking, a lot of people, like I said, use your earbuds. You can't hear a train coming up behind you. You don't notice, you don't really see the headlight if it's coming up behind you. By the time you do really realize there's a train coming, it could be too late. Pedestrian crossings, we've got a few of them around Kentucky, but most of them are in Virginia, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama. Golf cart communities, we have these right here. They're basically use them as if you are in a vehicle. They're vehicular crossings on that part. But they're pedestrian crossings. Don't want to place stuff on the rail. I used to put pennies, mash them flat, like that, but spikes, rocks. Douglas, Georgia, I think about 7 years ago, some young youths came through. After the engineering group got done working on the tracks, they started placing spikes on the track, just randomly. And Douglas is a small town where you pull directly up on the tracks, you park. Storefronts are within about 50 feet of the tracks. About 3 o'clock in the morning, a train went by. Alarms went off, car alarms, store alarms. City police come trying to figure out what happened. First they thought a train derailed, but with no cars there, the train passed. What they figured out was those spikes that the kids put on the track was like bullets going through the air, going through storefronts, going through car windows. Luckily it happened at 3:30 in the morning when nobody was around. There could have been some injuries or even fatalities on that part. Just like stepping on a pack of ketchup. When that steel wheel hits that rail and that spike, it's going to shoot like a bullet. So not the thing to do, not to place stuff on the tracks. Don't want to throw things. Our locomotives are actually getting heavier steel on the front, where vehicles are getting lighter, plastic. We're actually getting heavier. So if you throw something at a moving object, what's it going to come back? Come back at you faster, maybe. Plus, if you throw something that injures somebody, they're going to review it. We have our windows down sometimes when it's cool outside, let a little fresh air in, so we don't want to dodge paintball guns or rocks or cans. Where I said the tunnels, we don't want to be walking through them, taking shortcuts. Bridges, trestles, don't want to be out taking pictures on them, doing your wedding photos or anything like that. It's not the place to do it. Or walkways, maybe you'll have a walkway on that bridge there, but it's not for pedestrian use, it's for your engineering group, maintenance group, to do repairs on the tracks. That's what that's for. It's not for pedestrian crossings or anything like that. So find your pedestrian crossing and go at it. Don't want to cross through a train. Never know when a train can move. It might sit there for a day. All of a sudden it will move. That noise you hear is the slack that we call slack action. in between those cars. It could be a couple inches or it could be up to 18 inches. See that young youth right there starting through the train? And if you pulled out, if it was to be 18 inches separation of there, you could fall, slip, fall, lose a leg, lose an arm, lose your life on that part. It's not the thing to do. Don't want to cross under them either. Ladders that drop down off the side could knock you down if it started moving. Dispensaries, hosing, it's underneath of them, could knock you down. So don't want to cross under them, don't want to cross through them. Just wait. Standing too close. Remember I said banding could be loose, logs could be hanging over, wide shipments. The safest minimum point that you see right there would be at the crossbuck, at the lights, where your lights extinguished at. Not up there where the 2 girls, 3 girls and guys are at. A little bit too close on that part. Again, we don't want to be out walking the dog, taking shortcuts. I always said I couldn't get a stroller through the mall, let alone across the tracks. Not the place for that. So don't want to be walking. If you're just walking down the tracks, trains are really quiet if you're in front of them. The noise is to the side. That's where the noise is at when the train passes. If the train's not really blowing a horn excessively, sometimes you don't really hear them. And you might have other noise on the side of you. You might have a factory to the right or to your left of you that's putting out as much noise as what the train's putting out and drowning it out. So they're relatively quiet in a way. Graffiti causes all kinds of problems. There are a lot of pretty good artists out here. They take their work somewhere else besides the rail car. But this creates problems on the reflectivity of the bottom of the car. It creates problems if the car was to be in a derailment. The identification of that car could be slowed for first responders. Maybe a first responder pulled up and this car is on fire. He don't know whether to approach it or maybe go and extinguish the fire on it. Because he don't know if there's a load of potatoes in it or if it could be a load of explosives. Could slow the efforts on that part. So, plus it's a form of vandalism on that part. Say you're at a crossing, now here, and a car went by, and it has some offensive material on it. Remember a good old sign right here? Say, hey, Mr. Railroad, I'm at this crossing right here. Train went by. It has some offensive material on it. Writing that I didn't approve of. We don't look at every car in the yards. We can't see every car to remove that stuff. And a lot of the public does notify us of stuff written on the cars that's inappropriate. So another purpose, another use for their sign. Again, we want to stay off them tracks. Stay away from them as far as you can, if feasible. You'll always stay alive on that part. Tractor trailer, fiery crash on that part. Talk a little bit about this one right here. I showed this slide earlier. This right here was a slide in Jacksonville, Florida in 2005, in September 2005, it was. Little scenario. 2 people late. One late for work, a man, a plumber, to be exact, and a lady late for school at a double track road crossing. And this is 90-mile-an-hour rail for Amtrak part coming out of Jacksonville going up the East Coast. And what happened here, the plumber looked down the track and said, hey, that train's not even moving, I'm going. So he went. When he cleared the zigzag through the gates, the lady followed him. But what happened, another person coming in the opposite direction didn't see her actually start the zigzag around the gates, stopped, preventing her to come on through. She didn't go this barrel through the gates, she stopped, froze, didn't know what to do. And that's a northbound Amtrak train. The crossing that they was actually hit on was 1,700 feet from that point there. So when Amtrak did get stopped, I think they said the impact was like at 60 some mile an hour on that part. But she lost her life along with her 3 kids on that part. So it's not the thing to do to zigzag. Wait on them gates to go up. Wait on them crossing gates to go up. Wait on the lights to quit flashing before you start proceed on the cross part. Just because somebody else went around the gates don't mean you can. So don't risk that. Don't put your kids or anybody else in the risk. Again, that's our operational lifesaver portion of it. A little slide presentation. Got a video that we'll start off with. It kind of sums this all up, gives a little bit more character to it. Anybody got any questions? Okay.
In the beginning, you were talking about who you went to do your classes with.
Mm-hmm.
I was curious if you go to like the elementaries.
Yes. We start out with kindergarten.
Okay.
We do kindergarten all the way up to, you guys.
Does that happen every year or just randomly?
Just whenever somebody asks for us on that part.
Because I know as a driver, I don't have a regular route now, but when I did, I crossed the railroad crossing 4 times a day. It was a bad crossing because you couldn't see, and I had to use the hearing quite a bit. And my students got to the point, I always flipped the light on, the interior light to let them know I was getting close, I explained the whole thing. When that light comes on, I need to be quiet. Well, they finally knew after sitting quite a while for them to be quiet before I would cross, that I wondered how often you went into the classroom, because I said, I would tell them, if you have seen videos and movies that I have seen, you might be quiet because they're terrible things to see. And I don't want that to happen. I want you to be safe. So I was just curious how often you went, that if you went more often, the kids would appreciate it and be quiet when you get to the regular crossing. Because sometimes it's very difficult and kids just don't understand. They think it's a joke or a, so
Yeah.
I just didn't know how often you went to classroom.
Well, a lot of people, a lot of the schools or the teachers will ask for us, and they can go in and register for a presentation on that part. But you guys, as a bus driver, there's ideas on this video right here. If you want, hey, first day of classes, where you do go across these tracks, you might have that signal, whatever your signal is, to say reduce their noise. But it'll show you a little bit. You might pick up a few ideas on this video. It's a pretty good little video. If you've got any more questions, we'll ask later.
The decisions you make as a school bus driver affect the safety of your passengers. Nowhere are the right decisions are more important than at railroad crossings. There's a lot going on inside and outside of the school bus at railroad crossings. Extra precautions must be taken to decide smart and arrive safe. Everyone has driven a car across railroad tracks and not given it much thought. But driving a school bus is different. You are entrusted with the lives of children. Their safety is a top concern. School buses must stop before crossing the tracks, even if there's no indication the train is coming. Cal Vaughn is a school bus safety advocate who goes around the country training bus drivers.
The most important safety device on any school bus is the school bus driver. And making smart decisions is an individual choice that every driver makes every time that he or she gets behind that wheel.
Let's take a look at signs and signals and what they mean. The advanced warning sign is usually the first sign you see when approaching a highway rail crossing. It's located a good distance ahead to allow a school bus driver to slow down and prepare to stop before reaching the crossing. Pavement markings consist of a railroad crossing symbol followed by a stop line. The stop line identifies the place nearest the tracks for you to stop. If there is no stop line, you are required to stop no closer than 15 feet and no farther than 50 feet from the nearest track. A crosswalk sign marks all highway rail grade crossings. It means yield for most vehicles, but for school buses, it means stop. In addition to a crosswalk, a stop or yield sign may also be included. No matter what the other signage is displayed, when a school bus approaches a crosswalk, stop. crosswalk with flashing red lights and bells. School bus drivers should treat it like a stop sign, and when the lights begin to flash, do not cross. A train is coming. Many crossings have gates with flashing lights and bells. The gates are used to close the road when a train approaches. You must not go until the gates are completely raised and the lights go off. If there is more than one track, a sign below the crosswalk will tell you the number. Make sure all tracks are clear before crossing. There are a wide variety of railroad crossing situations in terms of both the signs and signals and the layout of the crossing. School bus drivers should always expect a train and be aware that state laws and signage may vary with regard to highway railway crossings. It may take longer and be inconvenient, but finding an alternate route that avoids railroad tracks is the safest way to go. And just because you don't have any railroad crossings in your district doesn't mean you won't ever cross them. Busing kids to sports games and other activities may take you over a railroad crossing. So when you get to a railroad crossing, it's important to have a game plan and to know what to do. That's why Operation Lifesaver developed a series of safety steps called 5 Alive. 5 Alive, Step 1, prepare to stop. It all starts with our first sign, the advanced warning sign. When you see the advanced warning sign, slow down, prepare to stop, and alert other vehicles of your intentions by tapping on the brakes and turning on the hazard lights. Step 2, quiet. Alert the students for quiet by flashing the dome lights, making an announcement, using the noise suppression switch, turning off radios and fans. Quiet on board your bus will help you hear the train's horn and focus your attention as you check for a train. Quiet signals vary from school district to school district. Step 3, stop, open window and door. Stop between 15 to 50 feet from the tracks or at the stop line. Open the window and door and look both ways down the tracks. Avoid obstructed views, poles, mirrors, window posts by leaning forward or backward in your seat. Step 4, double take. Do a double take by looking quickly again in both directions before crossing the tracks. And step 5 of the 5 Alive drill, go. If no train is in sight, cross the tracks. If you're driving a manual transmission, do not shift gears and risk stalling on the tracks. If you see a train coming from either direction, do not cross. You cannot accurately judge a train's speed or distance. An optical illusion may make the train seem farther away and slower moving than it actually is. This train appears to be creeping along, and suddenly it's at the crossing. Don't take a chance. Wait. Obstructed views can prevent drivers from seeing down the tracks at stop lines. Sometimes it's a matter of inching up past a pole or tree. Let's see what this school bus instructor recommends to her new driver.
This is where you have obstruction and you will need to rock and roll. Listen and proceed.
If you can't see safely down the tracks in both directions, talk to your supervisor. Contact railroad or highway authorities and ask them to remove the obstruction. Beware of getting too close to the tracks or a train may flip you. Trains overhang by at least 3 feet on each side of the tracks. Leave plenty of room for a train's overhang. When the 5 Alive steps aren't followed, disaster can strike. Buffalo, Montana, 1998. The school bus driver had completed most of the 5 Alive steps and was about to cross when a student asked the driver a question about some music. The distracted driver answered the student, then crossed without looking down the tracks a second time. A train struck the school bus, killing 2 brothers.
In that particular situation, that driver was interrupted by a child and did attend to the child. It had to do with a cassette player. But the problem was that the driver did not go back and scan all of the stimuli that he had to look at that moment. It is going back and reviewing all the systems that are going on to make sure that nothing has changed. Because as a driver, things can change in nanoseconds. And that was the fatal error.
Don't be distracted at railroad crossings. If you're interrupted, start your 5 alive safety steps again. Fox River Grove, Illinois, 1995. A substitute school bus driver, unfamiliar with the rail crossing, started across multiple tracks. Unbeknownst to the driver, when the light turned red on the other side, there wasn't enough room for the bus to clear the tracks. As the train approached, 3 feet of bus extended over the tracks. Inside the school bus, the radio noise drowned out both the train's horn and students' warnings about the oncoming train. The impact killed 7 students.
All of that would not have happened if this particular driver had been able to spend some time figuring out, do I have enough room to move this 40-foot bus so that it's going to clear the tracks?
Many errors were made in Fox River Grove. When traffic lights and railroad crossings are in close proximity, there's always the potential that traffic may back up, not leaving enough room for a school bus to fit on the other side. Don't cross the tracks unless there is plenty of room on the other side. This space is called containment or storage. Take into account the train's 3 feet overhang from the tracks and your bus's length.
Well, I think it's important, not for the bus driver just to know the length of the bus, but the bus driver has got to walk the length of that bus prior to ever beginning a route, meaning that there is a visual acquaintance that the driver has with that machine. And I think most drivers, after walking around the bus and physically getting accustomed to it, are going to be able to make smart decisions on the basis of what they have seen.
With the light red and traffic waiting, this bus driver made the smart decision to wait before crossing. School bus drivers are being trained to have at least 15 feet of clearance once they cross the tracks. How would you avoid the mistakes at Fox River Grove? Run your route before carrying students across it. Review containment areas to determine when you can cross safely. Eliminate excess noise at the crossing to clear the train. If you have a containment area on your route that will not safely hold your bus, ask to adjust your route. And finally, contact your supervisor on how to deal with it. Conestoga, Tennessee, 2000. A school bus driver from Murray County, Georgia, failed to stop at a crosswalk after turning the bus around in a parking lot on the Georgia-Tennessee line. Here's how a local newscast described.
The impact of the collision ripped the school bus off of its chassis, dragging it down the tracks, throwing the driver and some of the 7 children out, sounding to nearby residents like an exploding bomb.
I had to pull a small girl, I believe it was a blonde-headed girl from the bus that had massive head injuries.
3 children were killed. The driver's daughter, also a passenger on the bus, was severely injured. An onboard camera caught the driver failing to stop. The driver had been ignoring the crosswalk for some time since the train was never running.
When a bus driver believes that he or she has got this route down, and I know that there are not going to be any trains, that's the time that the driver is setting himself or herself up for disaster. You always go into a crossing assuming that there will be a train and take the necessary steps.
Savannah, Georgia, 2005. 4 children were put in harm's way by their school bus driver. Bells were ringing, warning lights flashing, and the gates were down when the unthinkable happened. With the train approaching, the bus driver had 4 kids get off the bus to lift the crossing arms of the bus to proceed. Your mother saw the whole thing.
The conductor was screaming out the windows at the children to get out of the way.
With the train bearing down, the kids crossed over the tracks in front of the train to get back on the bus.
They could have died. The train was so close.
The school bus driver was immediately fired.
Right before that, another bus came through and was doing the zigzag route to get through to the light.
Gates are blocking an intersection for a reason. A train is coming. Never lift the crossing arms. Never go around the gate. Contact the police or bus dispatcher if you feel there's a problem. The more you know about trains, the more cautious you'll be around railroad crossings. Here's a few train facts. It can take a mile or more to stop a train given its weight and size. Trains don't have steering wheels. They can't swerve. Trains are much bigger and heavier than buses. 400 loaded school buses will equal one loaded train.
You have your route, I will copy for you, you need to go over this route.
Before heading off with a loaded bus of kids, know your route. Know where the railroad crossings are. Drive your route and copy down the emergency notification number and the U.S. Department of Transportation identification numbers at your crossings. The posted numbers can take various shapes and sizes. Keep these phone numbers with you on the bus. Also give a copy to your dispatcher. If there's a problem at a crossing, you can provide the coordinates and the number to the dispatcher. As you scout your route, plan for an evacuation in the event your school bus gets stuck on the tracks. Determine an evacuation safe spot away from the tracks. This evacuation area is ideally at a 45-degree angle from the tracks in the direction of the train. Never cross a live track. Here's the evacuation drill. Scout and plan for an evacuation. Get the students safely out of the bus to the evacuation area. Call your dispatch office and give them the crossing numbers. In planning your route, make a list of the safety concerns. Work with your supervisor on resolving them. The safety of your passengers comes first. Each day, millions of kids ride school buses. Many of these buses cross railroad tracks, and each time they do, drivers go through the 5 alive safety steps. 1. When you see the advance warning sign, prepare to stop. Tap the brakes, turn on hazard lights, slow down. 2. Alert the students for quiet. 3. Stop 15 to 50 feet from tracks. Open the window and door and look both ways. If there are obstructions, try to navigate past them. 4. Do a double take. Quickly look both ways again. And 5. If no train is in sight, cross the tracks.
A school bus driver has to continually say to himself or herself, hey look, I've got one job to do right now. I've got the rest of my life. I'm going to be going home, I'm going to have a cup of coffee, I'm going to pick up my laundry, all the rest of that. But right now, I've got one thing to do. And that one thing that I have to do has implications not just for me. It's not just employment. It is protecting the lives of kids who have to have a future because I remain focused.
Another safe bus ride home. Over the course of a year, 4 billion safe miles are driven by school bus drivers like you. Your passengers arrive safely because of your smart decisions at railroad crossings.
What's the best thing that any of us could have said about our lives at the end of our lives? And that is that we gave somebody else a chance to live, somebody else a chance to experience his or her potential. And that's what driving a bus is all about. It's not a yellow door. It's a yellow door to a child's future.
Decide
It's all video.
arrive safe.
Got any questions? Okay.
How bad was the train engine that hit that boulder down there in Livingston?
I'm not sure what the outcome that was. I seen some pictures of it, but I'm not sure what they hit. I know it was a good sized rock though, was on that part. But let me, one more thing, if you got exposed rail, maybe parts of Kentucky, eastern part of Kentucky especially, you might have some exposed rail that looks like, hey, that place hasn't been working for a long time. There's all these old mines up there if you're in the eastern part of Kentucky where the coal fields have kind of fizzled out. Weeds are growed up in the tracks and all that. I've had a lot of bus drivers ask me and say, well, such and such mine or loadout, they know they're not working, but it's still exposed rail. You still have to treat it as live rail until the rail is either removed or paved over top of on that part. So treat all live rail if it's exposed. If it could be a train coming or sitting there on that part. Don't take it for granted that there's no train there or won't be there on that part. But any more questions or anything? Comments?